Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. And this is your host, Bruce Hutchin. We're heading out east, and we're going to connect with Dr. Shawn Tyson, owner of Pure One Outdoor Products. Dr. Shawn, welcome to the show again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Well, I love talking to you, and you know all about, how deer see and scent products and mock scrapes, and you get a great company there that continues to develop. But, as we talked last fall, or I guess it was during the winter, I had two situations that I really want to talk about because it was really an eye-opener to me. And the first one was I was hunting a field with decoys. I was in a box stand, real comfortable in Wisconsin during the rut. And they get down, and the way we have the trail camera set up, it's the best entrance point is for the field, and the best angle is basically right beside boxfly. And so I get down and walked past it, went and got my decoy, and then walked back, got in the ATV, and went home. And my buddy has a Wi-Fi system. As soon as I get home, he says, "You were glowing in the dark." And I go, "What?" He says, "Yeah, look at this picture." And the picture was already on the TV, and I was just flat glowing. And it wasn't a flash, it was infrared cameras. And it was like, oh my goodness. And then I had remembered earlier conversations with you about brighteners and UV light, the spectrum that deer see. And I'm going, man, I'm glowing in the dark. So let's unpack this and really spend some time and help people understand what they should do and shouldn't do and how they can test their product, the gear they're wearing, and, because to me, it's going to have an impact on whitetails.
Oh, yeah, it definitely has. It's definitely a tool that deer use to survive. And so it's definitely one more tool that hunters can use to get closer to bigger, mature deer. Okay,
so let's unpack and talk about why my camo pattern was glowing.
Sure. Well, the most common thing that we see with modern day camouflage is you're made with synthetic fibers. And a lot of these garments are made overseas, and they're made with dyes that have optic brighteners into them. And so what that does is that, so when a person sees camouflage, it's very pretty, it's very attractive, it's very bright, and it's very appealing to the eye. The bad part is that the dyes that they use on these camouflage garments, if they have that optic brightener into it, then whatever UV light during low light conditions, or if you're walking past a camera like you did, it's going to give that glow, and that's what deer see. So if you're sitting there with camouflage that have these fibers that have optic brighteners in these dyes, then deer are going to pick you out. They may not know exactly what you are, but they're going to see a glowing object in a tree or under a tree, and they're going to realize that that's not normal. And the biggest reason how they do that is based on the anatomy of the deer's eye. And we can go into more about that later if you want to, but the biggest factor is that a deer's eye does not have a UV filter like a human eye does. The human eye has a UV filter that blocks out about 99% of harmful UV light, and deer don't have that. So that's how they're going to pick up of that UV spectrum and pick up that UV glow on this type of camouflage.
The other thing I noticed after seeing that, I looked at the liner, and the liner of my pants and my jacket was white. The fabric.
Yeah, and that's that's what a lot of camouflage manufacturers do. They use a white liner, and if you ever took a white T-shirt and you went to a black light party, or you put a black light on a white T-shirt, you're really going to see that glow. And that's probably what you saw really shining the most, is probably that white liner that was projecting through and giving you that bright look to your camouflage.
There's a lot of camouflage companies out, and I'm not going to mention the camo I was wearing. It's
sure.
Certainly not fair to them. But, if you had to guess, 50% had those brighteners in it or the dyes in it or the
Oh,
white?
wow. You know what, Bruce, to be honest with you, I would think the percentage is very high. And the reason why I say that is unless you have somebody in one of these manufacturing plants in Asia somewhere and they're sitting there and they're actually testing all the dyes, you may have a garment that might have one sleeve that maybe doesn't have it, but then the rest of the gear might have it. It's hard to say because it's not really controlled. And so I've tested personally, I've gone to Bass Pro and I've gone to Cabela's because, I'm in the UV business and I've taken a little flashlight, blacklight with me and I've gone to these places and I've tested a lot of brands. And I hate to say it, but a lot of the ones out there really have the dyes that contain this. There's a few out there and you actually have to go through and search and type in, what we're talking about, UV brightener and camouflage, and a few will pull up on Google search. But not many camouflage companies have jumped on board. And I'm hoping that they do because I think it is one more tool that a hunter can use, like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it just amazed, the impact. And I hunt in the Rockies. So when I hunt species in the Rockies, especially later season, I'm wearing wool. Never had that problem, with the wool.
Yeah,
and
because it's a natural fiber compared to the polyester stuff that you're going to find nowadays that contains a lot of this dye.
Yeah. The other thing, people talk about getting busted by a deer, a buck or a doe, it doesn't matter. And they're getting busted and the deer's coming down the trail and their scent's right. They've got masking scent on, the wind's right, and everything looks cool. And all of a sudden the deer's head just goes right up and they drill you. And it's like,
yes.
How do they even know I'm here? Wait a minute. I'm 20 feet in the air. They can't scent my wind. I'm sitting here. I'm not moving. I haven't moved since they came into view. I'm not going to shoot this deer, so there's no primeval energy transforming between my eyes and the deer's eyes. If I'm not drilling them right in the eyes, they can't sense something bad's about to happen. And I'm sure I do believe that animals can sense that, especially if you look them in the eye. So all of a sudden, their head goes up, they look at you, and they don't run away or they don't snort, wheeze, and bounce away. They just walk away. Your thoughts on that?
And that's very common. And one of the issues, it goes back to talking about the anatomy of a deer eye. And they have the pupil, which is the open part, that black part that you see in your eye. Theirs opens really wide. And so it lets a lot of light in. So they have improved vision at low light conditions. So if the deer is kind of walking down the trail and everything is a darkened look to it, and then all of a sudden, at the corner of their eye, or they get some type of look of a glow or something doesn't look normal to their eye, then they're going to stop. And that's when you kind of see them do that head bob. And what they're doing, they're taking little mental pictures of this and they kind of put it all together, getting an idea of, hey, what is this that is not normal? And with that glow, it may not be a real defined look to what they can figure out that, hey, it's a hunter or it's a predator, but it's something not normal, and it may not spook them, but they may go, hey, you know what, this is not normal, and they're going to walk away or they're going to bounce. Whatever they're going to do, they're not going to continue that same path that they were on before because they, at that point, know that something is not normal about that tree stand or something under that tree that has a little bit of a glow to it. So it definitely is very common, and that's kind of how I got into this business is some of the things that you're mentioning I had happen to me. I did all the things properly, played the wind, scent, all those things, and they were still picking out certain things. That's how we kind of got into this business of UV. But yeah, it's very common to see that. And if hunters aren't using some type of UV control product, especially in the first and last light, that's when this is important. If it's midday and the sun's up, not really going to be a factor. The biggest factor is going to be at low light conditions. So hunters should definitely be testing their gear. And if they have some UV glow, then using a product to control that to give them better odds.
Now, one thing, the camo, I have white based on a white material because I call it the liner, but it's really the fabric itself. And they just print the camel pattern on top of it, as I understand it. That's what they do. I mean, they have this base fabric and they just print over it. Okay, so we got that.
Yes.
The other thing I mentioned in the warm-up in Nebraska, I spent 2 days figuring out this one buck, and my back was to a tree. It was getting low light. It was the evening, low light. I watched him get out of his bed. I was about 100 yards from him, and I watched him rub a tree, and then I was sitting on an alfalfa field, wind in my face. Everything was perfect. And, low swung branches, so there's no silhouette at all. But he came out 40 yards away and hit that field and started walking right at me. And he didn't spook or snort wheels or stomp, or he didn't even head bob till he got within 20 some yards of me. And then he did the head bob, because I know from, thinking about it and talking with you, I know he saw something that wasn't natural there, but it wasn't a predator prey situation. It was just, what is that? And that's the only thing I could think. And so in the same year, I had 2 separate instances where deer recognized, or trail camera and the deer recognized, that I was on a natural color. And
sure.
It just, I'm just amazed by that. I think how much people don't know and how they really should be concerned about it. You said you had a black light that you took to the store?
Yeah, I picked up a little flashlight that's an actual black light, and I picked it up, I think, at Walmart. Very inexpensive, and I went to Bass Pro and Cabela's and went through the camouflage, and you're looking for those camouflage that are going to have that glow to it, and you take it back into the room, and you just kind of, hit different areas of it, and you'll see that glow. And the most common areas of camouflage that I see the most glow are going to be the whites. So if you see a lot of camouflage that has a lot of white on it, which you mentioned you had a liner, but some of these patterns that we see nowadays actually have white into the actual camouflage pattern. And those are the ones that really stand out the most with that black light UV glow. And so if you go to a store, then you can actually do that yourself and see which is the best pattern. And I typically shoot for darker patterns that don't have a whole lot of white into them, which will help with that glow, as well as I use my product. But at the same time, is we want to try to avoid as much white as we can on these, as well as blue is probably the worst color to wear. I know all the old timers used to wear blue jeans to go hunt deer in, right? But
I'm laughing
times are a little bit different.
I'm laughing because I remember the first time my jeans glowed. I went, what the hell? I was walking out late and just, I had blue jeans on and maybe a camel shirt, probably not. And all of a sudden I'm glowing and I'm going, what the heck is that? And it was from the brightness.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a blue, basically hunting is you telling a deer that, hey, I'm over here hunting you. It's a big old, red flag or a big blue glowing flag. So, yeah, there's different things that we have to do nowadays that are a little bit different pressure-wise than how it used to be in the past. We talk about all of this UV, and a lot of times people don't believe these types of things. They go, oh, it's just advertised. And I go, all you have to do is go to the actual studies that were done by the University of Georgia. I think it's about 1992. They did the first deer study, and they actually studied the UV with deer. And this is where all this kind of started for me, was reading this research. And they actually have proven that deer see UV. And so it's not just something that, we use for advertising, for selling product, but it's actually a thing that hunters need to be aware of. So, it's a thing that, as we've talked before, it's just one more thing that we can use. But it's interesting to see all the modern day camouflage and what people are spending for this camouflage if they only knew that really they're just glowing. And that's sad, but at the same time, it's kind of funny because how much money that people are spending.
And we're talking about low light conditions, and that's where it's most prevalent. During the day, sunshine, if you're sitting in your stand in the afternoon, the sun's on you, everything, it really doesn't matter. It's when the magic time, and it's the last 1 or 2 minutes. It's the last.
You got it. First light. I say first light and last light. That's what I always say.
And is that 5 minutes? I don't know. But the more the light diminishes, the more you're going to glow. And so it's an increasing thing at night and a decreasing thing during the day, because in the morning, you're up in a tree stand and you say, oh, yeah, it's really cool and nobody can see me and everything. And you're glowing like a flashlight. And
yes.
Folks, you reach out to me because I have pictures that I can share with you of that infrared camera. And I talked to Dr. Tyson about that. And it wouldn't have mattered if it was a flash camera or infrared, the glow would have been the same.
Yes. It's interesting, Bruce, that you say that with your pictures. I think after we talked after your hunt, I had a friend send me some pictures of him. He was using a different camouflage company, and he sent me pictures of him. He was checking some of his cameras, and one picked him up, his buddy, using a different camouflage brand. And I'm going to brag, he was using our product also. He was very dark looking, to where my buddy, who wasn't using a product with some new camouflage, was glowing like you sent me. And it looked almost the same. And I had him, look inside and tell me the liner. It was kind of like yours, white liner. So almost kind of the same thing. And so it's very common.
So, you brought it up, and, Pure One Outdoor Products sells inhibitors. So let's talk about, without promoting the crap out of Pure One.
I know. Yes.
Let's talk about the value of inhibitors. And there's a lot of companies out there to have them, folks. But, Dr. Tyson and I are friends. So, I wanted people to start to realize, because they're looking at it, oh, yeah, I'm going to get this new camo, the best, and, the best out there. Well, it might be the best and the brightest. And I don't want that to happen to you, because,
sure,
I had to throw some money away, and I'm very cognizant now of glowing. There's no question about it. And so one way you can combat it is with inhibitors. So let's talk about those inhibitors.
Yeah, so just to give an idea, so with our company, it's called X-Out Odor, is that line of product. It's a combined scent and UV inhibitor product, where a lot of the other products on the market just do one or the other. But it's important to use inhibitors. So for ours, we have one that's a detergent. So most hunters know this, I hope they know this, is that they never want to use a normal off-the-shelf type of detergent that typically will contain optic brighteners. And so that's what the companies use, is they use these detergents, and they want to keep the normal day, everyday clothing bright colored. And so they contain these optic brighteners. So we definitely want to use hunting detergents. And the bonus with that is ones like my company or other companies that are out there, they may have inhibitors also in them. My company, how ours works is that as you wash the garment or you spray the garment, our product kind of coats the fiber of the camouflage, which will decrease that UV glow. So in using inhibitors for UV, it's very simple. It's very inexpensive. It doesn't damage the actual camouflage. It doesn't look any different. There's some companies that may put a little chalky look to it. Ours, it doesn't do that, but it's designed to decrease that UV glow. And the nice thing about it is that if you spray it or you use it as a detergent, it doesn't just wash right off. It'll last one or two washings, and you don't have to treat it all the time. Of course, the more treatments you do on it, the more and more decrease in UV glow that you're going to have. But I'd recommend, no matter if it's my brand or a different brand, for every hunter to use some type of UV inhibitor on their camouflage, on their backpacks, anything that's absorptive, that can absorb things. You definitely want to use some type of UV inhibitor just to keep that glow down. And the important part is, it's not all hunters believe it's just scent. And we all know that that's just not true. Deer use more than just their nose to survive. They also use their eyes. So we definitely want to use some type of inhibitor to decrease the UV glow on a hunter or their gear.
When you've done your test, so you've got some camo and you're glowing, and you wash it just one time with an inhibitor, is it a 50% reduction, 60%, 100%? What kind of reduction are you looking at?
They're all different, because all camouflages, it all depends on how bad they are to begin with. The minimum I think you're going to get is 50%. With my product, how it works is you spray it on the camouflage, you stick it out in the sun, and as the sun hits it with that UV, it will actually decrease it up to, from what I've seen with some products, it'll make it dark to where it's almost 80%.
So are you saying that there's no camo out there, if they have those dyes in them, that you can reduce to 100%?
I won't say that, because I haven't used all the camouflage. I've just used certain brands. Now, I have had customers send me pictures of, they have 100%, but from mine, I haven't tested every single camouflage out there. But most times, if it's a basic camouflage, it absorbs well, you should be pretty close to being 100%. That's also with multiple uses also. So for us, we have a system where we have a detergent, and then we actually have our X-Out Odor spray. So we're spraying that garment for not just scent, but we're also containing the UV inhibitor. We'll also begin to knock down that UV glow.
So folks, it's June, everybody's thinking, gearing up, and hey, need to replace some camo. Go to Walmart, someplace, Harbor Freight or whatever, get a small black light, select what you think is the best brand for you and go in the dressing room and then, test it out. I probably wouldn't test it out on the floor because I don't know, would you be able to see it if you just in natural light or the light of a store?
Yeah, the darker the room, the better you're going to see it. But if it has any glow to it, you're going to see it pretty well, especially if you put it towards a dark garment. If you take that light and you shine it on a black garment, you're not basically see hardly any glow. But if you put it onto a camouflage garment, then you're going to see that glow beside it.
So, lessons to everybody, and that's one thing about Whitetail Rendezvous and the coming soon Deer Hunting Institute. We're going to talk about these tips, techniques, and what people should know because marketing does a great job. There's brands out there that are iconic, but you got to check and make sure they're not glowing in the dark because that's, at the prime time, it's a magic time, and all of a sudden, that deer sees you. That's not a good thing. So, Dr. Tyson, let's talk about why people are using mock scrapes all year round now.
Yeah, it's a great tool. It really is. We've been doing it for a few years, and it's a great way to get a good idea of what bucks are on your property, especially during the summer, and to get an idea of what's sticking around. Of course, as we know, deer will travel, and what you see in the summertime may not be what you see in the fall. But it's a great way to put around your game cameras and to get a good inventory of what deer survive the winter. And then also keep an idea of, hey, how are these deer progressing growth-wise, and maybe begin to figure out which ones that you want to target for the fall. It's a great way to really figure out your property.
Yeah, I know in some places, all state, there's some counties that can use minerals and you cannot. And so some people put up feeders to get a sense of inventory and start building their hit list. And if you can't do that, then mock scrapes are a wonderful tool to do exactly what you want to do. You want to see, okay, who's around, who's growing, who's a potential to get on my hit list, or who's a potential that, dang, I've got a couple of bucks around. I should be able to get a buck this fall, either with rifle or bow or however you choose to hunt. And so it gives you some confidence and it gives you a sense of awareness. And that's why I think, mock scrapes are valid. Now, what's your thought of setting up a mock scrape? How long are the drippers? And let's just go and say you're going to set up a mock scrape. Walk us through it.
We use some of our product that we produce and sell, and we've got couple different ones, but we don't have any actual drippers. We do mostly synthetic in certain states, but we also have some natural buck urine that we use. And we go through it and we're going to find our camera. We're going to kick up the dirt. We're going to make definitely a great scrape area. We're going to pour that all into it, really get it fresh. I personally use gloves. I don't want to touch anything human scent wise. I don't want to leave any human scent behind. So we're definitely going to make it, scratch it up, put some natural scent down. If it's a synthetic one that we have or natural in certain states, we definitely want to draw those bucks to it. And we want to make them feel like, hey, there's some new guy around. I'm going to come back through here and I'm going to go over this scrape and I'm going to show him, hey, I'm the boss in this area. And we really find that after a couple of those, they'll keep it active for a long time and we can actually really get some good pictures.
And we're talking about we're not talking October or November, prime rut season. We're talking any time of year.
Yeah, it's amazing. You'll go through it and these bucks are, they're going to keep an idea of who's in the area. So they're going to be pretty active and they're going to keep an idea of who's in there. Of course, as they bachelor up a little bit, but, you're still going to have your dominant bucks and they're going to be in that area and they're going to keep track of each other.
So if you haven't done this before, folks, put this in your repertoire because trail cameras are great, and minerals are great, and corn is great, whatever, food attractant you want near your trail cameras. But mock scrapes is just another tool to use. And I find that if you really know you've got a mature buck and thing, you want to maybe change it up and get off the main trails and go try to find out, get between his bedding area and where he's either watering or eating. And his trail's not going to be as distinguished as the does and other smaller bucks. But then you do create the dominance thing, and I'm not going to get into dominance tonight. So you've got the UV inhibitors, then you also have the scent. And what's your thought about using scent cover-up so, the deer can't smell us?
Like I said, we carry all of these things. So I'll use my scent control products, of course, before we go in the woods, but I'll use a cover spray to cover my boots as I'm walking in. If I'm sitting in the tree and let's say it's bow season and I've gotten, a little warm walking in or sweaty walking in, I'll use my cover spray and I'll spray up into the trees a little bit, just trying to put a different type of attractant scent or a cover scent out there. We've got acorn, we've got corn, we've got all kinds of other different types of cover scents, so that we're just trying to throw that deer off to where they don't pick up that human smell and something else that's maybe sweet and attractive, maybe a curiosity smell to them, to where they're not going to be spooked by the first smell of a human they smell. It's going to be something else that they pick up. And so it's very common that we'll use something sprayed on our boots walking in, which is a great way to cover up that any human scent that you might have gotten going in.
Now, do you use vanilla in any of your cover-up scents?
We don't have a vanilla. We've got a couple different ones. We've got an apple scent, but vanilla is another one that old-time hunters have been using for a long time. We have a anise blend, and anise blend has been used for hunters for a long time as well. So we typically use sweeter stuff, which works really well for attraction. But we don't have an actual vanilla. We have our acorn, which has a very sweet smell to it. And that's probably our best seller back here east, of course. We're talking Acorn City over here. And it's worked really well for our hunters.
You think of all the choices people have. So when a guy or gal's thinking about, okay, here's my strategy, here's my scent control. I've got early scent season when it's warm. And then it gets cooler and cooler. Then I'm basically freezing, or I'm hunting in freezing weather. So walk us through what they should have to cover all the hunting season as far as scent control.
Scent control, it's very easy for us. So we built a great system that we have. First starting up, you get up, you take a scent control shower. So you're using some type of body wash, hair wash that has no scent to it. Personally, I don't put my camouflage on before I get to my hunting spot. I'll put it on once I'm out of the truck. I'll have it in a scent control tote. So all my camouflage has been washed, treated, scent control, and UV control, right? So all that stuff's already been treated. It's already in my scent control tote. I get out of the truck. I'll open up the tote. I'll put on all my scent control stuff. I've got my boots. I'll then spray my boots down with either an attractant, or you can use a scent control if people don't like to use scent attractants. Same thing for I don't wear a lot of garments walking into my tree stand. So I try to keep as much off as I can and put it on when I get there. But the important part is just try to keep your sweat down so that everything that you've already treated won't get recontaminated again because of your sweat. So everything really starts before you get out of the truck and to your spot. Everything that I do starts before I even leave the house. I think that's where a lot of hunters get in trouble. They'll take a scent-free shower. They'll then put their camouflage on, and then they're going to go to the local watering gas store, and they're going to get some gas for their four-wheeler, or they're going to go inside and they're going to buy some coffee, or they're going to buy a biscuit. And so all they're doing as they're walking around into all these areas that have non-natural smells, now their camouflage is absorbing these odors. And so then when they get to their hunting stand, they've already now put the gas station smell out there, the biscuit smell out there. They put all these different odors that a deer typically will not come across. So to me, you definitely want to be proactive without adding all these new odors to your area. And that starts with, being smart with your scent control. And that's preseason, that's mid-season, that's late season. Of course, late season, it's freezing and you're not sweating as much, but especially during bow season, especially here back east, it gets to be humid. I mean, if we're hunting September, it may be 85 degrees and humid. So you really got to be cautious with how much you're sweating, when you're walking in, taking it slow, not going too fast, not getting a bunch of sweat. And then once again, if you have to spray once you get to your stand, you can also do that as well.
There's a lot to learn, isn't there?
You know what? As a young hunter, I learned all these things the hard way. So yes, there is. And that's not even getting into which types of scrapes that you use and when do you use, it's a lot. But a guy like you who's putting out that course, I think for young hunters or beginning hunters, I think that'll be a great course for them to learn some of these things.
Yeah, because it never ends. I was talking to one of my collaborators today, and we're talking about, well, once you get your stand set up, then you got to figure out the right access and exit point. and then the right wind, and then all those factors. And it's gotten so the really good hunters that I know, the very successful hunters for mature bucks, they might only hunt a stand 1 or 3 sits the whole year.
Yep. For the season, year. Yeah. I mean,
it's huge.
Stand. And,
I mean, you get to stand up and it's sitting there, but they'll only hunt it when it's perfect conditions. And if it's not perfect conditions, they're not going to go in. And some people, a lot of people, not some, a lot of people have just, okay, this is my funnel for the rut, because they know bucks are moving, and bucks can move 5 miles. I mean, they're going. They're just looking, to breed. And because of that, over time, they realize, okay, there's a herd of does over here, this group here, this group there. And they're moving until, they get the pheromones in the air, and they'll do the lip curl and all that sort of stuff. And they go, oh, okay, she's ready. And then they have to get in the fight with the dominant buck or whatever. But you start thinking about that, and you start breaking just that part alone, that 10-day part, that we all know and love. That's a whole new game, because you might not hunt a stand only on certain wind conditions and that funnel. And, okay, the buck should come through here. This is a natural terrain feature that at no other time of year are they going to use it except during the rut.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of that starts, once again, that starts before the season starts, right? I mean, you have to have an idea of what's on the property, what's been on the property. So, there's a lot of things that happen before the season starts. And this is what comes down. There's people that always, I kill deer every year. And that's great. And I have no problem with that. I hunt to eat. But then there's guys that kill big deer every year. And those are the ones that you're talking about, the ones that will only hunt certain spot maybe 2, 3 times a season. That's it, because they know you can't burn out a spot, because once you burn it out, those deer will begin to pattern around it and you won't see them.
Yep. And folks, this is becoming a 365 hunter, because there's some seasonal hunters that only hunt Wisconsin, where I've hunted for years, 9-day traditional rifle season. And 10 days before, 5 days before, 3 days before season openers, they go and shoot their 30-30, 30-06, 270, doesn't matter. They'll shoot their rifle and go, oh, okay, it's good. And they get out their gear and they head to the cabin and they hang their clothes outside, let them air wash a little bit. And that's all they do. And they go out and sit in the same stand that's been in the family for 50 years. And on the farm I hunt, we have those. And we don't hunt them anymore because they're wooden stands. We got them replaced with metal stands now. But, the pallet stand, I sit and I've killed deer out there many, many years. And, there's still part of that stand hanging in the tree. I've got a double ladder stand in it now. But, that's a traditional gun hunting escape route stand. And it's produced deer over the years. And, people on a traditional hunt, they go there, they go, I'm going to go hunt pallet stand and concussion stand, and everybody has a name and everybody knows where everybody is. And season ends and rifle goes back in the closet, doesn't come out until next year. Well, sure. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely, no, not one bit.
And that's the hunting tradition. And there's other crazies, like Dr. Tyson and I, that I'm in the woods. I traveled this year, hopefully we'll hunt 4 different states. And so that's over 30 days.
Sure.
Whitetail hunting. And I might not kill deer. The crazy thing is, I come home from these hunts, my wife says, well, did you kill anything? I go, well, no. On the farm, I shot some does because we need to shoot some does. I'll eat a doe. They eat just as good as a buck. And, so we always have meat. But when I'm traveling, if I don't see the buck I want to kill, unless the farmer wants me to shoot does, I don't. And
sure,
I just don't do that. And that's my choice.
Sure.
I get just as much excitement, being last year feet away from deer. And it was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I wish it was on film because people wouldn't believe it, but they were within 10 feet of, I was sitting on the ground and not in a chair, just on the ground. And they were 10 feet from my feet.
Yeah, and that's happened to me the past couple of years where I've passed on a lot of deer. And, we both have taken the quality deer management, schooling, and we both know that you can't get big deer, right, if you keep shooting all the small deer. And so, the past couple of seasons, I've let a lot of deer walk because I want to grow bigger deer. And so I get just as much joy as getting close to them and knowing that, I could have shot that deer with a bow or a muzzle loader, but knowing that, hey, I hope that next year that deer will be here till be just as big. But that's me. A lot of hunters don't do that, and that's okay. And so that's what, it's not always about, killing something. It's also about being out in the woods, being free, doing what you love, and being close to nature. And sometimes I get just as much as kick out of being close to these deer that I do than shooting them. So I completely understand, Bruce.
Yeah, it's just fun. And I like how you said it, Dr. Tyson. It's your hunt and enjoy it. I don't know, when I started my podcast 4 years ago, Brenda Valentine was one of my first guests. She said, just understand it's your hunt no matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter if you're in your back 40 or you paid a whole bunch of money and went to the Yukon. Doesn't matter. It's still your hunt. And it's your enjoyment. And that's one thing about social media these days. People go, look at me with this big buck. And, some of the best representations of hunting is a kid with a doe or a spike buck, and it's his first deer ever. And he could care less what scored. He's not even thinking what it scored. He's out there and he's a hunter. And I salute the family or whoever got him out hunting. And that's what we need to celebrate, our success.
Yeah, making memories.
Yep, I agree 100%.
There's sometimes, Bruce, that memories are so much more important, spending time with your family or loved ones hunting, than killing the biggest deer. Them killing their first deer or their first buck, spending that time is so much more rewarding than killing a big deer, to me personally. So it's fun to share hunting with the younger generation or the people that have never hunted before, and seeing them shoot their first deer or their first buck and getting that enjoyment and getting them also hooked on a tradition that unfortunately has decreased. So yeah, good for you.
So that's where we're at. So let's just kind of wrap up here. Talk to me about, what people should do when they're selecting their camo this year.
We talked about before, they can either Google or they can do the old black light test themselves. You can Google and you can look for camouflage brands that don't have UV glow. There's a few of those out there that they can Google, or they can do the old black light test. Just pick up a black light flashlight or, whatever size they can do, and go to these Cabela's or whatever stores they have and begin to look at camouflage that's going to have a decreased UV pattern. Or, they can go out and they can buy UV inhibitors like ours or other companies to actually apply to their current camouflage or some new camouflage to begin to decrease that UV signature so that they won't be sitting in the woods having a glow to them. So, there's different options. They can go buy new stuff, or they can go and buy products on the market to actually begin to physically decrease the UV glow. So, it's a thing to where I would tell every hunter, just try it. You're not going to lose. It's not expensive, and it's actually going to help them each season. So you don't have to, the good thing about this, you don't have to buy the most expensive camouflage out there to make it work for you.
Now, how would somebody, they want to reach out to you or get to your site, how would they do that?
They can find our products at our store. It's xouthunt.com. And with that, all our products will be on there, all our UV inhibitors, all our scent control, all our scent attractants that we have. We have some new synthetics that won't freeze also this year. So we brought out some new stuff so they can use some scent attractants that in December won't freeze up on them. They can also find some of our stuff on Walmart.com, on Cabela's.com, through Jake's Archery. So we're all over the U.S., so they can just also Google us, and they can also find us on Facebook at Pure One Outdoors. They can also find us on Instagram. So we're all over the social media. If they have any questions, they can reach out to me directly through our website, and I answer every single email, whatever it's on about deer or scent control or scent attractant. I'll go and answer every question that they have, because to us, customer service is a huge part of this business.
And one thing, Dr. Tyson and I are going to develop an affiliate relationship on Deer Hunting Institute. We're going to collaborate for the Deer Hunting Institute membership. So he's going to be sharing throughout the year with our members and getting specific details and doing some video and some other content. So I'm excited to announce that, and I'm excited to see where that's going to go. So
yes, so are we.
On behalf of Dr. Shawn Tyson with Pure One Outdoor Products, it's been a blast, and I can't wait till next time.
Bruce, as always, buddy, it's a pleasure to talk with you. I look forward to a healthy and successful 2019 season.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn,